The loud sound of breaking glass woke me up suddenly. My heart was pounding so hard that I thought it might burst out of my chest. From downstairs, angry voices echoed through the house. I glanced at my phone. It was 2:17 a.m. This wasn't the usual time for my parents to argue. Normally, they fought earlier in the evening. My name is Noah, but everyone calls me Noah. I'm 17 years old, and over the years, I've gotten used to their fights. I could even predict how they'd go most of the time. But this one felt different. It felt bigger, heavier, and scarier, like something was about to break for good. How long? Dad's voice boomed, but it sounded strange, cracked, and shaky, as if he were about to cry. I had never heard him sound like that before. How long have you been lying to me? I crept to my bedroom door and pressed my ear against it. The cool would send a shiver down my spine. Mom's reply was too soft for me to hear, but Dad's next words were loud and sharp. 12 years. Dad let out a bitter, angry laugh. Our whole marriage has been a lie. 12 years. My heart sank. That was the same age as Maya, my half-sister. Maya wasn't home tonight. She was spending the night at her friend's house. I suddenly felt grateful she wasn't here to hear all of this. William, please, Mom begged, her voice shaky. I didn't mean to. To what? Dad yelled. To ruin everything? To make a fool out of me? I jumped at the sound of another crash, something shattering downstairs. Then I heard keys jingling. I can't even look at you right now. Dad's voice was raw, full of hurt and anger. I heard heavy footsteps stomping down the stairs. So I ran to my window. I peeked through the curtains just in time to see Dad storming out to his car. He slammed the door so hard I thought the glass might shatter. The engine roared to life, and the tires screeched as he sped away into the rainy night. I looked down and saw Mom standing in the doorway, her silhouette small and broken in the porch light. She looked like a shadow of herself, barely holding it together. I should have gone downstairs. I should have asked her what was going on, but instead, I crawled back into bed, pulling the blankets over me like I was a little kid hiding from monsters. Sleep didn't come that night. My mind was full of questions and fears. When I came downstairs, there were 2 police officers standing in the living room. Mom was on the couch, her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shook as she cried. The officers were speaking softly, but their words still reached me. Wet roads, one of them said. A sharp turn. No guardrail. No, Mom whispered, her voice breaking. The other officer sighed deeply. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Wyndham. Your husband's car went off the edge of Miller's Ridge. He didn't survive the crash. Everything around me tilted. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. My knees went weak, and I had to hold onto the doorframe just to stay standing. Mom was sobbing loudly now, but all I could hear were Dad's words from last night. Relatives started arriving as the day went on. Aunts, uncles, family, friends. They all came with sad faces and casseroles. Everyone spoke in hushed voices, offering their condolences. But Dad's parents, Grandma and Grandpa Wyndham, didn't show up. When I asked Mom why, she just shook her head and said, they're knowing. That afternoon, I found myself in Dad's study. The room still smelled like him, a mix of old books and coffee. His reading glasses were sitting on the desk, right next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. A photo caught my eye. It was of Dad and me when I was 12. We were fishing, both of us grinning at the camera with matching sunburned noses. Noah, Mom's voice startled me. I turned to see her standing in the doorway, her eyes red and puffy from crying. Ethan's coming over to help with the arrangements. Ethan Bellamy. He was Mom's coworker. He'd been coming over a lot lately, and I didn't like it. Something about the way he looked at her made my skin crawl. Did Dad know? I blurted out before I could stop myself. About you and Ethan? Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. This isn't the time, Noah. When will it be the time? I shot back. When you admit what happened last night. She didn't answer. She just turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my questions. The wedding was in our backyard, under the big maple tree where Dad had built my childhood swing. The same tree where he promised to hang fairy lights for my graduation party. Mom wore a cream-colored dress and smiled a smile I didn't recognize. Maya was the flower girl, tossing rose petals everywhere. She looked so happy, but I couldn't understand how she wasn't hurting like I was. I watched the whole thing from my bedroom window. I noticed once again that Dad's parents weren't there. It was like half of our family had just disappeared. Noah, Maya knocked softly on my door. She was still in her pink flower girl dress, clutching her pillow. Mom wants you to come downstairs for pictures. I'm not knowing well, I said, using the same excuse I'd used to skip the ceremony. But we're a family now, she said, her voice full of hope. Ethan says so. Ethan isn't my father, I snapped. Maya looked hurt and guilt twisted in my chest. It wasn't her fault. Sorry, I said more gently. I just need some time, okay? She nodded and left. I turned back to the window. Down in the yard, Mom and Ethan were having their first dance. The way he held her, his hand resting possessively on her back, made me feel sick. We need to talk about Noah, Ethan said. Her attitude is affecting Maya. She's grieving, Mom replied, but she didn't sound as firm as I wanted her to. It's only been 6 months. It's been long enough, Ethan said, his tone cold. We're a family now. Either she accepts that, or we need to think about other options. What do you mean? Mom asked, her voice uneasy. My sister's boarding school in Vermont has openings for the spring semester, Ethan said. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, and my hand started to shake. I accidentally dropped the glass of water I was holding, and it shattered on the tile floor. Noah, Mom called. Is that you? I didn't answer. I ran back upstairs, my feet silent on the carpet. I turned it on and found an email draft from the night he died. It was addressed to Grandma Eleanor. Eleanor, it read, I know why you've been warning me about Ethan. Tonight confirmed everything. I need your help protecting. The message stopped there. My stomach churned as I reread the words. Dad had been trying to protect us from something. A knock at my door made me close the laptop quickly. It was Ethan, family meeting downstairs. He said with a fake smile, We need to talk about your future. I nodded, trying to stay calm, but inside, I was panicking. Whatever Grandma Eleanor knew, I had to find out. Whatever Dad had been trying to protect us from, I had to uncover. One thing was clear. I couldn't let them send me to Vermont. Maya wasn't just my half-sister. She was Ethan's daughter. Dad raised her as his own. Be no heaving she was his. But Mom and Ethan had kept the truth a secret all these years. Of course, I said as Maya climbed into bed beside me. She was wearing Dad's old college sweatshirt as a nightgown. Seeing her in it made my heart ache. I wanted to cry. Noah, she whispered in the darkness. Why doesn't Ethan want you to stay? Her words surprised me. What do you mean? I asked. I heard him talking to Mom, she said softly. He said you're too much like Dad, that it's not good for anyone. I didn't know how to answer. Before I could say anything, I heard footsteps in the hallway. The door creaked open and Ethan stood there, his face in shadow. Maya, he said, his voice sharp. What are you doing in here? I had a nightmare, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Back to your room, he ordered. No, Maya said stubbornly, but she got out of bed anyway. She gave me an apologetic look as she walked past him. Ethan didn't leave. He stayed in the doorway, staring at me. We need to set some rules, he said. Maya looks up to you. She doesn't need your bad attitude influencing her. You mean she doesn't need to remember Dad? I said angrily. The words felt dangerous coming out of my mouth, but I couldn't stop myself. Or is there something else you're afraid of? Ethan's face changed, his eyes going cold. What are you trying to say? Nothing, I said quickly, but my hands instinctively moved to cover Dad's laptop sitting on my desk. Ethan stepped into the room and shut the door behind him. Listen, Noah, your mother and I are trying to build a new life, a fresh start. If you can't be part of that, then there are other options. Like Vermont? I asked, my voice shaking. Like anywhere we decide, he replied. His eyes landed on the laptop. What's that? Schoolwork? Or something of your dad's? He took a step closer. Hand it over. No, I said, clutching it to my chest. This isn't a request, Ethan said, reaching for the laptop. Get out of my room, I shouted, backing away. The door suddenly burst open and Mom stood there, her eyes wide as she looked between us. What's going on? Your daughter's been snooping through William's files, Ethan said, pointing at me. Who knows what she's found? Mom's face went pale. Noah, give me the laptop. Why? I asked, my voice trembling. Are you afraid of what I'll find? Like these emails from Grandma Eleanor? Or the DNA test results? Mom's face turned ghostly white. Ethan's hands balled into fists. How long were you going to keep lying? I demanded. Dad knew, didn't he? That night before he died. He figured it out. About you and Ethan, about Maya. Enough! Ethan shouted, making me jump. Mom stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Sweetheart, it's not that simple. It is that simple, I said, slamming the laptop shut. Dad died thinking his whole life was a lie, and you're still lying. To Maya, to everyone. Vermont isn't optional anymore, Ethan said, his voice like ice. You're leaving next week. I turned to Mom, hoping she'd defend me, but she just stood there, silent, tears streaming down her face. Fine, I said finally, my voice steady. But first, I'm calling Grandma Eleanor. I stormed back to my room and grabbed Dad's phone. Grandma Eleanor's number was still saved in his contacts. My hands shook as I dialed. The phone rang 3 times, then 4. Finally, I heard her warm, familiar voice. Hello, Grandma, I said, my voice cracking. It's me. There was silence for a moment, then a sharp breath. Nora, is that you? Yeah, I said. I found Dad's emails about the DNA test, about Mom and Ethan. Where are you? She interrupted, her voice urgent. Are you safe? I'm at home, I said. But listen, don't tell anyone you called me, she said quickly. Your grandfather and I are 3 hours away. We'll be there soon. The line went dead. I turned around and froze. Ethan was standing in my doorway. He had unplugged the phone. Calling hours are over, he said, holding the cord in his hand. You can't stop me from talking to my grandparents, I said, glaring at him. Actually, I can. He stepped closer. Your mother signed the boarding school papers this morning. You're leaving on Sunday. Better start packing. I pushed past him and ran downstairs. I found Mom in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher like everything was fine. You signed the papers? I demanded, without even asking me. It's for the best, Noah, she said softly, not meeting my eyes. You need a fresh start. A fresh start from what? I shouted. From the truth, Ethan said from behind me. The past. Where it belongs. The sound of piano music stopped. Maya appeared in the doorway. You're leaving? She asked quietly. No, I said at the same time Mom said. Yes. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Is it because of me? Because I told Noah what Ethan said. Maya, Ethan said sternly, go to your room. No, she cried, running to me. I don't want Noah to go. Ethan stepped toward her, his eyes cold. I moved between them. Don't, I said firmly. Don't you dare try to scare her. You want the truth, Noah. Ethan sneered. Tell Maya who her real father is. Stop, Mom shouted, dropping a glass. It shattered on the floor. The room fell silent. Mom, Maya said softly, her voice trembling. What's he talking about? I looked at her, really looked at her. She had Ethan's eyes. How had I never noticed before? I swallowed hard. Nothing, I said finally. He's talking about nothing. Ethan smirked. He knew he had me cornered. If I told the truth, it would destroy Maya's world. If I stayed silent, I'd have to leave her behind. I'll go pack, I said hollowly. But as I turned to leave, I caught movement outside. Through the kitchen window, I saw two familiar figures standing on the back porch. Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa August. Ethan followed my gaze and cursed under his breath. Mom dropped another glass, her hands shaking. I turned to Maya. Remember what Dad always said? The truth sets us free. She nodded slowly, her eyes wide. Well, I said, taking a deep breath, it's time for the truth. The back door opened and my grandparents stepped inside. Grandma Eleanor opened her arms, and I ran to her without hesitation. Noah, she said softly, holding me tight. It's going to be okay. We're here now. The chaos in the kitchen. Ethan shouting, Mom crying, Maya's confused sobs, faded into the background as I clung to my grandmother. Later, at their house, I sat in Grandma's warm kitchen. It smelled like cinnamon and safety. Grandpa paced behind me, his face dark with worry. Your father knew for a long time, Grandma said gently, sliding a leather journal toward me. He found this in your mom's desk last spring. I opened it and saw Mom's handwriting. The journal detailed her secret relationship with Ethan, one that started long before she even met Dad. He was going to confront them that night, Grandpa said quietly. We begged him to wait, to let us help him gather evidence for the divorce. What kind of evidence? I asked, my voice small. Grandpa's expression grew heavy. Your dad found irregularities in his company's accounts. Ethan was stealing money, embezzling, and your mom helped cover it up. The room seemed to spin. Dad's accident, I started, but my voice trailed off. Grandma placed her hand on mine. It might not have been an accident, she said softly. Before I could respond, a loud knock came at the door, making all of us jump. I saw Mom's car in the driveway. Grandpa stood up, looking serious. I'll handle this, he said, heading to the door. Wait. I jumped up. I want to talk to her, Grandpa. She owes me the truth. All of it. Mom looked so small, standing in Grandma's living room. Her eyes were red, and she kept twisting her hands. Where's Ethan? I asked. At home with Maya, she said quietly, her voice shaking. He doesn't know I'm here. Just like Dad didn't know about you and Ethan for all those years. I said, my voice sharp. Mom flinched, like my words had hit her. I never meant for any of this to happen. Ethan, he can be very persuasive when he wants something like Dad's money or his life. I said, my chest tight with anger. No, Mom said, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't know about the money until later. When William found out, I panicked. I told Ethan everything, and he said he'd handle it. But I never thought. You never thought he'd actually kill Dad? Or you never thought anyone would find out? My voice cracked. Please, Noah, she begged. I've made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your mother. No, I said, my voice cold. My mother died the night Dad did. I just didn't know it until now. A sound came from the hallway. We turned to see Maya standing there, tears running down her face. She must have followed Mom. Is it true? Maya whispered. Did he kill William? Mom reached for her, but Maya stepped back. Sweetheart, it's complicated. Stop lying. Maya shouted, just stop lying. She ran to me and wrapped her arms around my waist, just like she used to when we were kids. Despite everything, she was still my sister. Blood didn't matter. Dad taught us that love was stronger than DNA. What do we do now? Maya asked, her voice muffled against my shirt. I looked at my grandparents, then at Mom, who looked so much older now. The journal on the table had enough proof to destroy Ethan, but using it would tear our family apart too. We tell the truth, I said finally. All of it. To the police. To everyone. Ethan won't let that happen, Mom whispered. He'll what? Grandpa's voice was strong. Kill someone else? Try to send Noah away? We have evidence now. Real evidence. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Ethan. Come home now, or everyone learns what really happened the night your father died. I showed it to everyone. Mom went pale. He's bluffing, she said, but her voice shook. Maybe, I said, already grabbing my keys. But I'm done running from the truth. Grandma caught my arm. You're not going alone. I looked at Maya, still clinging to me, and then at the journal. No, I said. We're all going. It's time to end this. When we got to the house, it was dark. Too dark. The porch light wasn't on, and Mom always kept it on. Grandpa wanted to call the police, but I knew we couldn't wait. Ethan could be destroying evidence right now. He's expecting me, I said, gripping the journal. Just me. Absolutely not. Grandma started, but I cut her off. Dad died trying to protect us. I won't let it be for nothing. Before anyone could stop me, I was at the door. It was unlocked. Inside, the house felt wrong, like everything was slightly off. Ethan? I called. In here, his voice answered, coming from Dad's old study. Ethan was sitting at Dad's desk, with only a small lamp on. Dad's laptop was open, and beside it was something that made my heart stop, Dad's phone. The one the police said they never found. Wondering how I got this, Ethan smirked. It's amazing what you can find if you know where to look. You went back that night, I said, to cover your tracks. Smart girl, he said, just like your father. Sit. I stayed standing. Where's Maya? She's safe, he said. Away from this mess you're creating. You murdered him, I said, my voice shaking. I protected what's mine, Ethan said coldly, just like I'm going to do now. The door opened behind me, and I heard Mom's voice, followed by Grandma's. Ethan's face darkened. I told you to come alone, he growled. I did, I said, holding up the journal. And I brought what you really want. His eyes locked on it. Your mother's diary. William was so proud of finding it. Hand it over. I stepped closer. Tell me what happened that night first. The whole truth. Ethan stared at me, then shrugged. Your father was going to ruin everything. The life I built. The future I planned. He said he was going to the police. I couldn't let that happen. So you followed him, I said. I tried talking sense into him. When that didn't work, he spread his hands. Sometimes, accidents are necessary. I needed to keep him talking. And Mom? Did she know? She knows what she needs to know. Just like you'll forget what you think you know, unless you want Maya to lose her sister. The threat hung in the air. I thought about Maya, already losing one father. The journal felt heavy in my hands. You're right, I said quietly. Sometimes we have to protect what's ours. I held out the journal. As Ethan reached for it, I let it fall. When he was distracted, I lunged for Dad's phone, but Ethan was faster. He grabbed my wrist, twisting it. The phone fell to the floor. I tried to be reasonable, Ethan snarled, his hand tightening around my throat. But you wouldn't listen. Let her go. Mom screamed from the doorway. Everything happened so fast. Ethan spun me around, using me as a shield. Grandpa appeared behind Mom, holding something shiny. In the corner, Maya stood frozen, her phone raised. She'd been recording the whole time. It's over, Ethan, I choked out. The truth is already out. Ethan's grip tightened. Then I have nothing left to lose. The last thing I saw was Mom lunging forward. Then everything went black. I woke up to the beeping of hospital machines. Grandma Eleanor was beside me, holding my hand. "Welcome back, sweetheart," she whispered. "Ethan?" I croaked. "He's in custody," Grandpa said. "Maya's video and your father's phone gave the police everything they needed. Where's Maya?" I asked. "Here," she said, stepping into view. She looked like she'd been crying. "I'm so sorry, Noah. I knew something was wrong. So I hid and recorded everything. You saved us," I told her. Just then, Mom came in with 2 police detectives. "5 minutes," one said. "Then we need your statement." Mom handed me an envelope. "Your dad wrote this for you before he died. It explains everything." With shaking hands, I opened it. It was Dad's handwriting. "Noah, if you're reading this, it means I was right about Ethan. I've written down everything. The stealing, the threats, and even the affair. But most importantly, I've made sure your future is safe. The trust fund isn't just for college. It's everything I had. I moved it to a special account only you and your grandparents can use. I knew Ethan would come after me when he found out, but I couldn't let him take away your future like he ruined our family. Take care of Maya. She's not part of any of this, and she'll need her big sister more than ever. And Noah, remember what I always told you. Truth and justice are important, even if they're hard. They're worth fighting for. All my love. Dad." I looked up at Mom. She was crying quietly. "You knew about this letter?" I asked. "Ethan found it first," she said softly. "He used it to make me marry him. He said he'd destroy everything. Your dad's evidence to trust fund our family if I didn't help him hide what happened to William. So you picked him over the truth? Over Dad's justice?" I asked, hurt. "I thought I was protecting you and Maya." Her voice trembled. "But I was wrong. So very wrong." The detective stepped forward. "Mrs. Wyndham, it's time." Mom stood up straight. "I'm ready to tell the truth. All of it." "Wait." I grabbed her hand. "Dad's letter said he wanted justice, but he also wanted us to heal. He wanted us to be a family again. How can we, after all this?" Mom asked. "By choosing truth this time," I said firmly. Maya came closer, holding Mom's other hand. For a moment, the 3 of us stood together. 3 generations of women deciding to choose truth over fear. I turned to my grandparents. "Grandma, Grandpa, will you help us?" Grandma Eleanor wiped her tears. "That's all we've ever wanted, dear heart." The detective cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. We found something at the house. A recording on William's phone from that night." My heart stopped. "Do you want to hear it?" the detective asked. I looked at my family. We were broken but healing, hurt but not destroyed. I heard Dad's words in my mind. Truth and justice are worth the price. "Yes," I said. "We need to hear everything. It's what Dad would want." 1 year later, I stood at Dad's grave, brushing autumn leaves off his headstone. The trial was over last week. Ethan was sentenced to 20 years for Dad's murder. Mom got immunity because she testified. The recording from Dad's phone had captured everything, including Ethan's confession before he forced Dad's car off the road. "Ready?" Maya asked, standing beside me with a bouquet of Dad's favorite sunflowers. She lived with me and our grandparents now. She chose to after Mom started therapy and moved into a small apartment. We were all healing, but in our own ways and at our own pace. "Almost," I said, pulling out Dad's old journal. I'd found it hidden in his desk after the trial. "I want to read something to him first." Maya sat on the grass, cross-legged. I opened the journal to the last entry, dated the morning of the day he died. "My greatest fear isn't dying. It's leaving my girls without showing them that love is stronger than blood. Truth matters more than comfort. And family isn't just who you're born to. It's who you choose to be." He was right, Maya said softly. "About all of it. A car pulled up to the cemetery gates. Mom was here, right on time for our weekly visit. These visits were still awkward, filled with careful words and small steps toward forgiveness. But we kept coming week after week. We were choosing truth over comfort, just like Dad taught us. Girls, Grandma Eleanor called from behind us. Your mother's here. I closed the journal and tucked it into my bag next to an acceptance letter from Dad's alma mater. The trust fund he set up would cover my college tuition. But it wasn't his money that guided me here. It was his words. Mom walked toward us, carrying her own flowers. Her hair was turning gray at the temples, and grief had left lines on her face. But she looked lighter now, like she'd let go of a heavy burden. I found something, she said, holding out an envelope. It was in my old diary. Inside was a photo I'd never seen before. Dad teaching me how to write my name. We were both laughing as I scribbled messy, backward letters on his notepad. On the back, he'd written, Noah's first story, about a family of birds who flew in different directions but always found their way home. I was cleaning out the storage unit, Mom said. Thought you might want this for your dorm room. My throat felt tight. Next week, I'd be leaving for college, leaving behind the cemetery, this town, and all these ghosts, but not the truth. Never that. Thanks, I said, surprising us both by hugging her. Maya joined in, then Grandma and Grandpa. We stood there, this patchwork family held together by choice, not by blood. Later that night, as I packed my room, I found one last surprise. A sealed envelope had fallen behind my desk. It was Dad's handwriting again, but this time it was addressed to both of us. My dear girls, by the time you read this, you'll know that family isn't always what it seems. But here's what I know for sure. Love doesn't care about DNA, truth doesn't change for convenience, and strength isn't about never falling. It's about who helps you stand up again. Noah, protect Maya's heart. Maya, guard Noah's spirit. Together, you're stronger than any secret, any lie, any storm. And remember, sometimes the hardest paths lead exactly where we're meant to be. All my love, Dad. I looked at Maya, my sister, not by blood, but in every way that mattered. He knew, Maya whispered, her eyes shiny with tears. He knew all along, and he loved us anyway. No, I said gently. He loved us completely, because love, like truth, doesn't need reasons. It just is, and that's enough to build a future on. If this story made you think or gave you a new perspective, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our future videos. Let's keep sharing thought-provoking stories and learning from life's lessons together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.